Hello, this is Martin Avis from kickstartnewsletter.com with a hands-on video comparison between two ebook design and layout programs, Designrr and Sqribble. Both programs make claims to be the best ebook designers around, and as I own both and write a lot of books and reports that need decent layout and formatting, I thought it would be useful to give you a real-time, hands-on review of each program's strengths and weaknesses, and to give you an honest Kickstart recommendation. On the surface, Designrr and Sqribble look very similar, and the claims made on the sales pages make you think that they pretty much have the same features. But as you'll see in this video, and in the more in-depth analysis on my webpage, there are vast differences. After you've watched the video, please head over to the full review page where you can download one of my latest books, designed on my own personal favourite of these two programs. It's absolutely free, and it'll give you an idea of how good these books can look.
Let's start on Designrr's import screen. The basic version of the program can import from a URL or blog post, a Word docx file, a Google Doc, a Facebook page, or you can import directly into one of the templates. For this demo, I'll import from a Word docx file which I previously wrote in Google Docs and saved in docx format. Next, I pick one of the 107 professionally designed templates. Designrr now uploads the docx file and lays it out according to the template I chose. It took just 4 seconds. Designrr imported all the pictures correctly, as well as the text layout and all the headers. Notice that each paragraph has been imported as a separate element, something which puts Designrr well above Sqribble right from the start. Personally, I think that this particular template has a horrible choice of font for their headlines, but that's good because it lets me show you another big difference between Designrr and Sqribble. In both programs you can change the font and style of each element, but in Designrr you can opt to make your choices affect every single element in the document. So here, for example, I change the font color of one of the H3 headlines, and instantly every H3 headline in the whole document is changed to match. Similarly, if I change the font and size of one paragraph element, all of them change. Believe me, that's a huge time saver and a great feature. If you find that the template you've chosen isn't quite what you wanted, just select a new one and Designrr does the rest. And of course, every template is infinitely adjustable, so you can change anything to make an ebook that looks exactly how you want. Now let's go through the same process with Sqribble. Select a template from the 60 on offer, and after naming it, pick an import option. Whereas in Designrr the import process took 4 seconds, in Sqribble it took 36. I won't make you sit through all that. The first thing to note is that Sqribble didn't import the images in my document. It seems to have set placeholders, but finding and re-uploading each image is going to be a real pain. The next thing that's important is that for some reason Sqribble doesn't import each paragraph as a separate element. Instead, it seems to group together several paragraphs into random blocks. That makes editing very restrictive, and even worse, it often messes up the flow of the document. The result is that while Designrr's ebooks, after a few tweaks, are pretty much usable right from the start, Sqribble's ebooks are most certainly not. They require a huge amount of editing and reformatting to make them even halfway presentable. In Sqribble, as in Designrr, you have a lot of controls over the way each paragraph looks. There are loads of things you can change, including the font and the size. But in Sqribble, those changes only affect the paragraph, or more accurately, the arbitrary block of paragraphs that you're working on. There's no way that I found to change all similar paragraphs in the same way that Designrr does. That, to my mind, puts Sqribble at a huge disadvantage. Even a relatively short document could have dozens or even hundreds of paragraphs, and changing the look of all of them individually would take forever. My example document has over 150 paragraphs. In Designrr, I can change them all instantly at the click of one button, but in Sqribble, I hate to think how long changing them all one by one would take. Another point of comparison between Designrr and Sqribble is the way you can add things in the flow of your book. Designrr offers 43 elements grouped into 6 sections that allow you to add things like cover pages, table of contents or page breaks. You can add dividers, new paragraphs or headlines, lists, tables, images or shapes. There are elements that create column layouts or embed videos. It's a very comprehensive list and gives you the flexibility to create something really special. For example, here I'm adding a couple of dividers to make a paragraph really stand out. And here I'm dropping in a new page element to break up my text. Sqribble works in a similar but much more limited way. To start with, there are only 9 elements. Add a headline, image or new paragraph, place a divider, create a button or bullet list and draw a rectangle. To make things even more restricted, as Sqribble groups together several paragraphs into a block, new elements are placed after the current block. So highlighting a single paragraph with a pair of dividers, as in the Designrr example, isn't possible with Sqribble. Oddly, Sqribble doesn't seem to have a page break element, although there is one to add a blank page, but that's not really the same thing. In this respect, Designrr is far more powerful than Sqribble and enables a lot more customization. Now let's look at another way of importing content. Both Designrr and Sqribble have an import from URL option that lets you import the contents of a web page or blog post. You should only import from a page or post that you own or have permission to use. Firstly, Designrr. Paste in the URL you want to use. In this case, I've put in the URL of my own page that contains this review. When Designrr has finished fetching the content, press Next. Choose a template, and in a few seconds you have an ebook. As you can see, the formatting looks pretty good. The only changes needed are a few page breaks to tidy things up. All the other adjustments to the various elements that I showed you earlier are still available to you as well, so you can quickly fine-tune it to your own taste. Sqribble starts out much the same. Pick a template, select the Grab from URL button, tell it your URL and click on Finish. In the spirit of full transparency, I must say that every time I've tried to import from a URL in Sqribble before, the page crashed with a timed out error message. But this time, after 36 seconds, the book was created. It seems to have imported everything, including this time the images. However, Sqribble has stretched all the images to fit the page width, which isn't particularly helpful, as it means I'll have to edit each one to make it look right. Something else I noticed is that Sqribble has duplicated some paragraphs. That makes for even more time-consuming editing.
So, there you have it. To sum up, Designrr has been around since 2016 and has been continually developed since then. Any initial shortcomings were quickly addressed and customer feedback was listened to, which has resulted in Designrr growing into a mature, feature-rich, easy-to-use piece of software. It produces excellent results and lives up to the claims on its sales page and more. On the other hand, Sqribble is still very much the new kid on the block. The developers have tried to copy Designrr's main features, but it feels like it was rushed to market before it was 100% ready. I hope that they'll continue to improve it so that it can be a real contender one day, but that's not today. If you write books or reports and want to make them look really professional without the professional price tag, or if, like me, you lack the time and the design skills to do your words justice, then Designrr is exactly what you need. For the money, there's simply no competition. Now, Head over to the link below and read the rest of this review and download your free copy of one of my latest books that was designed in Designrr.